Yes! My hellos, friends! It's always a pleasure to greet you into my, home. Well, the cave that I'm staying in. Yes, that is somewhat the thinking of today's tale. But before we start, do remember to like, share and subscribe. It's a great help. Now, for you I have a tale of a fiendish liar who you wouldn't want to be invited to see. Oh, no. So, if you're ready, I'll tell you the tale of the Guest of Honor. Once an age ago, upon the slopes of the Crafanc Mountain, there hung a cracked and weathered castle. That was the lair of a truly singular fiend. This lurking horror could assume two most deadly forms, that of a ferocious fiery dragon with bladed teeth and claws, and that of an elf who used his silver tongue to wield fatal tricks against his prey. This twofold monster fashioned for himself the name of Cadmus. Now, despite the force that Cadmus could wield, like all tricksters, he feared to be confronted by the brave and true. So he kept himself to a small hunting ground, and only preyed upon those who travelled too close to his broken castle. After many years of no elf who ventured through his mountain pass being seen again, its roads became shunned and feared. The hunger grew inside of Cadmus until he could lie in wait no longer, and taking his elven form, set out to find his prey. However, with his honeyed words he could not entice any travelling traders or walking pilgrims to his dreaded part of the mountain, for they knew not what to fear, but they knew to fear it. As Cadmus was attempting to lure back a group of Arth traders, an elf clad in armour rode past to the shouts and cheers of the traders.
Who is that, to have such a claim?
He asked, failing to conceal his jealousy.
That is brave Sir Angus, champion of Western Gilgant,
replied the trader, as he led his fellows on their way, leaving Cadmus hungry still, but with a thought at least.
The brave will not fear to come to my lair, when given reason.
Cadmus then wandered far over Avalon, finding the holds and halls of the bravest and most sung champions and heroes of this isle. He left for each an invitation filled with words of praise and admiration, calling them to a feast to be held for their honour in his castle of the Crafanc Mountain. Whenever any champion took up his invitation, Cadmus would lavish false honours upon them and grant them gifts from his hoard of stolen treasures. And as the day fell to the night, the charmed champions would relieve themselves of their arms and armour. The champion, now only in his tunic, turned from his sword resting against the chamber wall. There stood, what was once a flattering elf. Their blood would run cold, their hands so quickly forgetting, sprang to an empty belt, but finding their hope gone, they would run to the door, only to be grasped by closing claws. Their songs, once so great, would now be ended by the dragon's teeth. Out! After Cadmus had taken many champions from Avalon and added new treasures to his hoard, the modest but famed champion, Nile, from Clan Hyle of the Hold of the Golai, was travelling up to the Crapank Mountain to answer a most mysterious invitation. His journey was steady and most uneventful, until he came to the foot of the mountain, where he saw, coming from the lands of the Yuk, another champion, who he knew to be Owen of Bannon. For champions, well, they must know their competitors. They raised their swords in the customary peaceful greeting, as there was no cause between them at this time, and seeing that they were heading along the same path, Niall called to Owen.
Good sir, what reason have you to be upon this mountain? Why, there is to be a feast in my honour,
replied Owen proudly, puffing his chest out and posing as if for a tapestry.
I assumed to honour me is why you were here, my friend. My dear fellow, I think you'll find said feast is to be held in my honour. Yours? Why, my feats are 100 times greater than yours. Why, just last week I slew the great rock troll of Derfwen.
Nice.
I heard your troll was nothing more than a forest gnome, whereas I, on the other hand, just last month rescued a beautiful maiden from the feared goblin king of the Eardor Caves. My sword left its mark upon his eye.
They quarrelled in this manner for some time, until Niall raised his hand and said,
Kind sir, let us not dissolve into common bragging. I have my summons here in writing. Cast your eyes and see that I was not misleading you. The feast is indeed to honour me.
He held out the scroll, and Owen examined it with a furrowed brow. Then he slowly reached into his own tunic and pulled out an identical scroll.
It appears something peculiar is afoot, my fine fellow. This Lord Cadmus will have to explain himself.
Together the two champions ascended the great mountain, continuing their disagreement on who was the greater hero. At last they arrived in the hall of Cadmus, taken aback though they were by the castle's dilapidated appearance. They nonetheless stepped over the threshold. They'd barely cast a glance at the surroundings when the booming voice rang through the hall. Welcome, my champion, first among the heroic blades of Avalon. Please enter, sit at my table, my hearth, my home is yours. I am Lord Cadmus. It's a tremendous honour. The two champions looked around in confusion, trying to locate the mysterious voice. All of a sudden, out of the shadows, those stepped a tall, handsome elf. He wore a charming smile until his eyes fell upon the pair in front of him. His face fell as Owen stepped forward.
Tell me, Lord Cadmus, which of us is the first of the heroic blades?
Oh, why, you, of course, brave Sir Owen,
exclaimed Cadmus. Niall stepped forward, brandishing his own summons.
Well, how do you explain this?
Cadmus stared at it for a moment before slipping back into his charming demeanor.
Naturally, due to your legendary archery skills, brave Sir Niall,
he cried. At this, Owen gave a shout.
And what of my archery skills, eh?
He demanded of Cadmus, who blinked momentarily off balance.
Of course, brave Sir Owen, I have heard you can shoot your arrow through a ring, tossed into the air. A most admirable feat indeed. Yes. And of course, that is not to mention your phenomenal riding skills, yes, taming even the wildest of stallions.
Niall rolled his
Oh,
eyes.
please, I'm 10 times the rider he is. Why, I famously broke in the white mare Diamond, who trampled 10 of his riders.
Once again, the two champions began their bickering, talking over Cadmus and becoming louder and louder until Cadmus finally let out a great bellow. He roared, and with that he was transformed to his monstrous form, swiping the two champions aside with his scaled tail as he hissed,
You arrogant fools! I will consume you as I did your fellows, whose egos drew them to me. Cadmus, the devourer!
Niall and Owen stared up at the beast before them, and each knew that it was more than one of them could defeat alone. So, swallowing their pride, they regained their feet and stood together against the dreaded dragon Cadmus. As Cadmus slashed his claws at one, the other would strike him true, and so the champions swapped and switched between blocking and bloodying the dragon. Cadmus knew not where to strike or defend, and so the champions overtook the loosened reptile and put an end to his angry trickery. With the battle won, both Owen and Niall parted that day truly as respected friends, and only ever sung of the other's deeds when asked to fill the hall with the tale of the guest of honor. Yes. Well, didn't those champions do well in the end? Yes. Dealing with that poor Cadmus. You see, once you can put your pride aside and work with others without thinking of your own glory, you can defeat any foe. Speaking of working together, if you have any stories or ideas that you wish me to send back to Avalon and make into a video too, of course, yes, do email it to bard.elven.tales@gmail.com. Yes. Oh, and to help more people see these fantastic tales, and so you don't miss any yourself, do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now,
I'll see you soon for more bad elven tales. Ha ha!